We are bringing you all of the latest footage and, stories that we are following here on Live Now from Fox. And this was a big one that we followed for quite some time when it first broke yesterday. At least 3 people dead and dozens more injured after a train slammed into a dump truck and derailed in rural Missouri. I do want to take us live out to the scene right now in Mendon, Missouri. That is where Fox News correspondent Garrett Tenney is joining us live with an update on this situation. Garrett, good morning to you. Definitely scary, heartbreaking that 3 people lost their lives. I really want to backtrack for our viewers who are just getting up to speed on this situation. How did this all unfold yesterday?
Yeah, and Regina, you can imagine for a lot of folks, the other passengers that were on this train, it was families going on vacation, it was teachers and students on their way to conferences, and all of a sudden, as they were going, one passenger said they looked out the window and saw a big truck that was speeding down the road ahead of them and thought, well, I sure hope that truck slows down. Moments later, passengers said they heard a loud boom. The train just came to a screeching halt. And then moments later, the train started to tip over on its side. This Amtrak train was on its way from Los Angeles to Chicago. About 240 people were on board. About a dozen or so workers were also there on the train. And 3 people were dead. More than 50 people were injured as a result of this accident. And that video from inside the train shows folks just trying to get their bearings, try to get their belongings as folks just fell on top of them. They had to break out windows to climb out. And because this area is so rural, we're about 100 miles outside of Kansas City. This town has a population of around 160 people. It took some time for first responders to get here on the scene. So you had folks just walking around the outside of this train, sitting on the side of it, on top of it as it was off of the tracks, waiting for help. And thankfully on board that train, as you mentioned earlier, was a couple of troops of Boy Scouts who were on their way home to Wisconsin after doing a week-long intensive backpacking trip. They were able to use their first aid training to help stabilize and treat a lot of these other passengers until first responders were able to arrive on scene. One of the scouts even rushed over to what was left of the dump truck and eventually found the driver, who was laying in a ditch in a field nearby, and tried to stabilize him and comfort him until he ultimately passed away. And we are expecting to speak to that scout here in this next hour to hear about his experience and what it was the driver said, if anything, in his final moments about that accident and what happened leading up to it. Regina?
Yeah, actually, Garrett, we are showing some pictures of that troop that came to the rescue just yesterday. Now, when it comes to moving forward in this investigation, what can we expect today? I understand that you're waiting for the NTSB to arrive on scene.
Yeah, and one of the things we know they're going to be looking at, they're going to be requesting the data from the train in terms of how fast it was going. They're going to be looking at the video cameras from the front and the back of the train to be able to see exactly the timeline, how fast the train was going, where this dump truck was, potentially being able to figure out how fast that dump truck was likely going, whether there was any effort to stop, how that played out. But they're also going to be looking at this particular kind of stop. It's called an uncontrolled crossing. And that essentially means there's no flashing lights, no bars or barricades that come down to let drivers know, hey, there's a train that's coming through. And there's just a sign that says railroad train crossing, essentially. And these are fairly common in rural areas like this. But apparently a local farmer had raised concerns as soon as 2 weeks ago, saying that a lot of trains were coming through here so fast that he was worried an accident like this could have happened. So all of these are going to be parts of the investigation that they're going to be looking into, an investigation that we're told is going to be very long and thorough, and it may be months before we get the full story of what took place.
And, Garrett, you brought up a really good point earlier. A lot of these people were passengers going on vacation, trying to go from point A to point B. And this happened in a very rural area of Missouri. So as far as the passengers that were either injured or that were able to get out safely, are they traveling out of that area? What is the situation with people who had to be taken away from this scene?
Well, you had about, it was more than 50 passengers who had to be taken to hospitals around the region, really, just because they had to go a bit of a ways just in terms of capacity. But the other passengers who had minor scrapes and bruises and injuries, they were taken to a local school, received some treatment there, and ultimately they were kind of divvied up to as many local hotels as could fit them. And then this morning, they're all trying to figure out how to get to where they were going or how to get back home if they decided to not keep going on those trips. We do know that Boy Scout troop, some of their parents actually chartered a bus that came overnight from Wisconsin, just arrived here this morning, and they're getting ready to get on that bus to head back up to Wisconsin in the next couple of hours.
That really makes my heart melt. That's so sweet. Out of such a tragedy that you've got innocent people going out of their way to help more innocent people. So Fox News correspondent Garrett Tenney out there in Missouri, thank you so much for joining us, getting our viewers up to speed on this situation. We'll certainly be checking in with you soon. Stay safe out there.
My pleasure. Will do.
All right, everybody, Regina Gonzalez with you here on Live Now from Fox. If we do get any feeds of a full press conference or any sort of update from the NTSB or Missouri officials following that investigation and what happens at the scene today, we'll certainly bring it to you here on Live Now from Fox.